The metallic voice on the PA system announced a departure, but Jasmine Duval was frozen in place, the scent of stale coffee and disinfectant filling her lungs. Across the terminal, her ex-husband Gregory laughed a sharp barking sound that sliced right through her. "Still on your knees for a living, Jazz," he sneered, his new fiancée clinging to his arm like a designer handbag. Jasmine's navy blue uniform felt like a lead vest. She said nothing, her dignity a fragile shield. She didn't know that just yards away, the wealthiest man in the state was watching. And she couldn't possibly know that in 1 hour she would leave this all behind. In his Bentley. The chill of the Teterboro Airport terminal was a familiar, unwelcome companion. It seeped through the thin fabric of Jasmine Duval's celestial clean polo shirt, a constant reminder of her pre-dawn start. At 6:00 a.m., the private terminal was a strange mix of sterile silence and sudden frantic energy. Jasmine moved through it like a ghost, her sole mission a hot black coffee from the small Starbucks concession before her shift began. She was measuring out a packet of sugar when she heard the voice. A voice she hadn't heard in 8 months, but one that still haunted her nightmares. Well, well. If it isn't Mrs. Oh, wait, Miss Duval, my mistake. Jasmine's hand froze. The sugar packet hung suspended over the cup. She squeezed her eyes shut for a single painful second before turning around. Gregory King stood there looking like a walking advertisement for cheap cologne and aspirational wealth. His suit was a size too tight, gleaming with a synthetic sheen under the fluorescent lights. His shoes were sharp enough to be weapons, and on his wrist he flashed the Rolex he'd bought with their joint savings right before he'd served her the divorce papers. Beside him, a woman Brenda Jasmine remembered from Gregory's social media was draped over his arm. She was all sharp angles, platinum blonde hair, and a cocktail ring with a diamond so large it looked like costume jewelry, even though Jasmine knew it was distressingly real. "Gregory," Jasmine said, her voice flat. She willed her hands not to shake. "I almost didn't recognize you," he said, his eyes doing a slow, insulting appraisal of her uniform. The navy blue pants, the sensible non-slip shoes, the polo with the small embroidered logo of a Comet Celestial Clean. "Brenda, honey, this is my ex-wife Jasmine. I was telling you about her." Brenda looked Jasmine up and down with an expression of profound boredom, as if she were inspecting a piece of furniture she had no intention of buying. "Oh, the one who... Right." Gregory's smirk widened. "Still playing Cinderella? I thought you'd at least be managing the mops by now. But I guess some people are just born for the service industry." The barista, a young man with tired eyes, looked away, pretending to wipe down a perfectly clean espresso machine. The humiliation was a physical thing, a hot, creeping flush that started at Jasmine's chest and burned its way up her neck. "I'm working, Gregory," she said, turning back to her coffee. "That's what you call this work." He laughed, that sharp barking sound again. "Come on, Jazz. You're wiping down toilets for billionaires who don't even know you exist. What happened to all that big talk? All those books?" He waved a dismissive hand. The books. That was where it had all gone wrong. Their marriage hadn't just ended, it had imploded. Gregory, a junior real estate agent obsessed with image, had been thrilled when she supported him working 2 jobs so he could get his licenses and build his brand. The moment his first big commission check cleared, the man she married vanished. She remembered the night vividly. He'd come home to their small apartment not with champagne but with a scowl. Jasmine was at the kitchen table, her laptop open, a stack of textbooks on jet propulsion beside her. "What is this?" he'd asked, pointing at her screen, which showed a complex schematic of a turbine engine. "It's my application," she'd said, smiling, thinking he'd be proud. "I got accepted into the MIT Online MicroMasters program for aerospace engineering. It's what I've always wanted, Greg. Before everything." His face had crumpled. "Engineer and Jasmine, we're not in college anymore. I'm a partner now. We need to look the part. I need a wife who hosts dinner parties at the Capitol Grill, not one who smells like textbook glue." He'd said the word partner like it was a royal title. He was in fact a junior associate at a small suburban realty firm. "This is the part, Greg," she'd argued. "This is my career. Your career is set now, it's my turn." "Your turn," he had scoffed. "Your turn is to support me. I'm the one making real money. I'm the one pulling us up. I can't be dragging dead weight behind me, Jasmine. And this dream of yours is dead weight. I need a trophy, not a science project." He left her 2 weeks later, claiming she lacked ambition and was content to be small. The irony was so bitter it choked her. He'd drained their savings, filed for divorce, and immediately started dating Brenda, the daughter of a minor property developer. And Jasmine, with her half of the depleted funds and a mountain of pride, had moved into a studio apartment and found the first job she could that paid the bills and allowed her the mental space to study celestial clean. The job was in a twist of fate at Teterboro, the busiest private aviation airport in the country. She was quite literally surrounded by the machines she was learning to build. Now, standing in the Starbucks, all that pain came rushing back. "Still got your head in the clouds, I see," Gregory continued, relentless. "Or are you just cleaning them? Tell me, do you even get to fly or just buff the wings?" Brenda tittered. Jasmine picked up her coffee. She looked Gregory square in the eye. Her voice was quiet, but it didn't tremble. "I have to go. I have a G650 to prep for an 0800 departure." "Ooh, a G650, he mocked, using air quotes. "Impressive. Listen, I'm here to meet a client, a real client. We're flying to Miami to look at a penthouse. My pilot is probably prepping my plane right now." He tapped his Rolex. "Time is money, you know. And it looks like you're not making much of either." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a crumpled $1 bill, and tossed it into her empty tip jar, which sat by her purse. The paper bounced off her bag and landed on the counter. "For your trouble, honey. Don't spend it all in one place." With a final pitying look, he steered Brenda away, his laughter echoing in the cavernous room. Jasmine stood there for a full minute. The coffee was scalding her hand, but she didn't feel it. She felt the old familiar shame, but underneath it, something new. A cold, hard resolve that had been forming for 8 months. It was a diamond being compressed from coal. She didn't take the dollar. She grabbed her bag, her textbook heavy inside it, and walked toward the security checkpoint for the tarmac. Gregory thought she was a joke. He thought she was invisible. She was about to find out just how wrong he was. The world on the line, as the tarmac was called, was a different universe from the public terminal. Past security, the air smelled of jet fuel and cold Atlantic wind. It was a world of pure, unadulterated power. Bombardier Globals and Gulfstreams sat parked in neat rows, their gleaming white fuselages looking more like spacecraft than airplanes. This was Jasmine's sanctuary. Her company, Celestial Clean, was not a simple janitorial service. It was a bespoke, high-stakes detailing operation. Their clients were the 0.01%. When a tech CEO or a foreign dignitary paid $70 million for an aircraft, they didn't want Windex and paper towels. They wanted a team that understood how to clean $10,000 a yard silk carpets, polish rare mahogany veneers without scratching, and sanitize a galley kitchen without leaving a chemical scent. One mistake, a scratch on a leather seat, the wrong solvent on a carbon fiber winglet, could cost tens of thousands of dollars to repair. Jasmine's boss, Maria, a sharp-eyed woman who had built the company from nothing, ran the teams with military precision. "You are not maids," she'd drill them in training. "You are preservation specialists. You are invisible, but you are essential. The moment they stop seeing the clean, that's when you've done your job." Jasmine was more than essential. She was exceptional. While other cleaners grumbled about the demanding work, Jasmine studied the planes. She knew that the leading edge of a G650's wing was a marvel of laminar flow design, and she cleaned it with the reverence of a museum curator. She knew the avionics in the cockpit were sensitive to dust and static, so she used specialized approved equipment. Her work friend Robert, an older man with a gentle smile who had been cleaning planes for 20 years, often watched her. "You don't just clean 'em, Jazz," he said one afternoon as they sat in the small break room. "You look at 'em, like you're trying to figure out their secrets." Jasmine smiled, pushing her copy of Fundamentals of Aerodynamics deeper into her bag. "I just think they're amazing, Rob. All that power, the physics of it, it's like magic." "It ain't magic, it's just math," he chuckled. "But you got the math brain. You're not long for this world, kid. I see you. You're going to be one of the people designing these things, not wiping them down." His words were a small balm on the raw wound Gregory had left. Jasmine was pouring every spare cent and every waking moment into her program. The job at Teterboro wasn't just a paycheck. It was immersion therapy. It was a daily reminder of her goal. Today, however, Gregory's voice was stuck in her head. "Still on your knees for a living." She tried to shake it off as she suited up for her first assignment, the G6 and 50 she'd mentioned. It belonged to a hedge fund manager who was notoriously picky. "Jasmine, you take the cockpit and the main cabin," Maria instructed, her clipboard in hand. "Robert, you have the galley and aft. I want this thing reflecting like a mirror in 1 hour. Wheels up at Aero 800. Jasmine entered the aircraft, the scent of rich leather and recycled air greeting her. The cabin was silent, luxurious, and cold. She set to work, her movements precise and economical. She cleaned the touch screens of the avionics suite, polished the pilot's yokes, and vacuumed the plush carpet in perfect straight lines. She worked with a focused intensity, channeling her anger into her task. Dead weight. She wiped down a porthole window. Lack of ambition. She polished a burled wood cabinet. Born for the service industry, she was so focused that she didn't hear the footsteps on the cabin's entry stairs. "Miss Duval!" Jasmine jumped, letting out a small yelp. She spun around, her heart pounding. A man stood in the cabin doorway. He was not a flight crew member. He was tall, dressed, not in a suit, but in a way that signaled a different, quieter kind of wealth. A simple black turtleneck, dark jeans, and expensive-looking but unassuming leather sneakers. He had sharp, intelligent eyes under a sweep of salt and pepper hair. He looked to be in his late 50s. "I'm so sorry," Jasmine stammered, placing a hand over her racing heart. "You startled me. The flight was scheduled to board at 07:30. I'm just finishing up." The man smiled, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. "My apologies. I'm early. I am Eris Beaumont. This is my aircraft." Jasmine's mind blanked. Eris Beaumont. The Eris Beaumont CEO of Aura Dynamics, the revolutionary battery and AI company that was single-handedly changing the aerospace industry. He was a legend, a recluse. Forbes estimated his worth at... She couldn't even process the number. This wasn't the hedge fund manager's plane. Maria must have had a last-minute schedule change. "Mr. Beaumont," she said, finding her professional voice. "My apologies. I'll be out of your way in just a moment. I just need to secure my supplies." "No, please, take your time," he said. His voice was deep and calm. He stepped further into the cabin, his eyes scanning, not at the clean surfaces but through them. He was an engineer, she realized. He was looking at the construction. "You're very meticulous," he observed, gesturing to the cockpit. "I've never seen the avionics panel gleam quite like that." "Thank you, sir. We're trained to use an anti-static solution. Dust can be a major issue for the screens." He looked at her, truly looked at her for the first time. His gaze was intense. "You know about avionics?" "Only a little, sir," she said, suddenly shy. I like planes." He nodded slowly. "As do I." He paused, then, "Celestial clean, is it? You've been with them long." 8 months, sir." "And you enjoy the work?" Jasmine hesitated. Gregory's mocking voice echoed in her head. "Do you even get to fly?" She straightened her spine. "I enjoy being around the aircraft, sir. The work is honest, and it facilitates my studies." "Studies?" he asked, his curiosity piqued. Before she could answer, Maria's voice called from the bottom of the stairs. "Jasmine, are you finished? We have the bombardier on the east ramp." "Coming, Maria," Jasmine called back. She turned to Mr. Beaumont. "It was a pleasure to meet you, sir. Have a safe flight." "Miss Duval," he said, stopping her, "you left this at the terminal coffee shop." He held out a book. Her book. Introduction to Jet Propulsion Systems. Jasmine's face flooded with color. "Oh my... I must have left it when Gregory humiliated me. Thank you so much, Mr. Beaumont. I would have been lost without that." "I can imagine," he said, handing it to her. His thumb had been resting on a chapter about turbine efficiency. "I found this to be a particularly fascinating read, especially the section on sustainable fuel compounds." Jasmine stared at him. He had read her textbook. "You're an engineer," she whispered. "I was," he said with a small smile. "Now I'm just a man who signs checks. A pleasure, Miss Duval." Jasmine hurried off the plane, her mind reeling. Heiress Beaumont. He had spoken to her. He had seen her textbook. He hadn't mocked her. He hadn't looked at her like she was the help. He had looked at her like an equal. The encounter was a tiny spark in the darkness of her morning. It was enough. A week passed. The encounter with Heiress Beaumont replayed in Jasmine's mind a pleasant distraction from the grinding work and the sting of Gregory's insults. She'd thrown herself even deeper into her studies, fueled by the brief validating conversation. She was working on a midterm thesis, a proposal for a new type of hybrid combustion chamber that could in theory increase fuel efficiency by nearly 15%. It was ambitious, perhaps impossible, but the math was sound. She was on a double shift cleaning a Bombardier Global 7500 that had just landed from Dubai. The passengers had deplaned quickly, leaving a wake of discarded newspapers and half-empty water bottles. The flight had been long and the cabin was in disarray. "This one's a full turnover," Maria said, tapping her pen. "They're flying to London in 3 hours. Let's move people." Jasmine was assigned the main cabin, which included a private stateroom with a full-size bed. As she was stripping the high thread count linen, something fell from between the pillows. It was a man's wallet. A simple, elegant black leather wallet. It made a heavy, significant thud as it hit the silk carpet. Jasmine's heart stopped. This was the ultimate test. Celestial Clean had a zero-tolerance policy. Finding lost items was common, but a wallet was a serious matter. She picked it up, her hands clinical. She didn't open it, but she could feel the thickness. It was stuffed with cash. She immediately clicked the small radio on her shoulder. "Maria, this is Jasmine in the 7500 stateroom. I have a code 5. Code 5 was their signal for a high-value personal item. "On my way," Maria's voice crackled back instantly. Maria was there in 30 seconds. As per protocol, Jasmine held the wallet while Maria put on a pair of white gloves. She opened it to find the owner's identification. Maria's breath hissed out. "Oh, madre mia." She turned the ID around for Jasmine to see. The driver's license was for Heiress Beaumont. Tucked behind it was a stack of $100 bills too thick to count and a row of black and platinum credit cards. "This is his plane," Jasmine realized. "He must have been resting before they landed." "And he's already left the terminal," Maria said, her face pale. "His car service picked him up 10 minutes ago." Maria pulled out her phone. "I have to call his chief of staff. This is bad." "Wait," Jasmine said. "Look, this is his business card. Aura Dynamics. It has a private cell number on the back." "You are not calling Heiress Beaumont's personal phone," Maria said, horrified. "No, but you are. Calling his chief of staff means this goes through a dozen people. He's a reclusive man. He might appreciate the discretion. Just tell him his property was secured by your staff and is waiting in your office safe." Maria looked at Jasmine, then at the card. She nodded, impressed. "Good thinking." Maria made the call, her voice trembling slightly. But Jasmine was right. The man who answered, presumably Beaumont himself, sounded calm if slightly annoyed. Maria explained the situation, emphasizing that the wallet was secure in her locked office. "Thank you, Maria," Jasmine heard the deep voice say over the phone. "I'll send my driver back. Who found it?" "My team leader, Jasmine Duval, sir. She secured it immediately." There was a pause. "Miss Duval." "Of course. Please. Extend her my personal gratitude. I'll have someone there in 20 minutes. When the call ended, Maria let out a long breath. "You, Jasmine, are very good at this. You kept your cool." "It's just part of the job, Maria," Jasmine said, echoing her words from a week ago. An hour later, a severe-looking man in a dark suit arrived at the Celestial Clean office. He signed for the wallet, counted the contents silently, and nodded. "Mr. Beaumont extends his thanks," the man said. He then produced a thick envelope. "This is for the woman who found it, Miss Duval." Jasmine, who had been called into the office, shook her head. "I can't accept that." "It's not a request," the man said, his face impassive. "Please," Jasmine insisted, pushing the envelope back. "It's our company policy, and my personal one. I didn't do it for a reward. I did it because it was the right thing to do. Please just tell Mr. Beaumont that we're glad his property is safe." The security man looked at her, baffled. He had clearly never had a reward refused. He looked at Maria, who just shrugged. "She's a stubborn one," Maria said, not without pride. The man finally nodded, taking the envelope. "As you wish. Good day." When he left, Maria turned to Jasmine. "Are you crazy?" "That was probably $5,000, Jasmine." "It doesn't matter, Maria. It's just not why I do it." Jasmine didn't know it, but the security man reported the entire exchange to his boss. Eris Beaumont, sitting in his Manhattan high-rise, listened to the story, a look of profound intrigue on his face. "Jasmine Duval," he said to himself. "The aerospace student. Who is she?" He opened his laptop and typed a few words into his personal search engine. Jasmine Duval, MIT MicroMasters. Her student profile popped up. A professional-looking headshot, her resume, and most importantly, a link to her academic portfolio. He clicked it. The first document was her midterm thesis, a study on hybrid combustion chambers for increased turbine efficiency. Eris Beaumont, the man who hadn't taken a vacation in a decade, leaned back in his chair, canceled his next meeting, and began to read. The following week, the weather turned, bringing a cold, biting rain that swept across the tarmac. It was the kind of day that made the work 10 times harder. Jasmine's hands were raw, and her spirits were low. The brief high from the Beaumont encounters had faded, leaving only the reality of her life, the demanding job, the looming exams, and the ever-present shadow of Gregory. She hadn't seen him since the Starbucks incident, and for that she was grateful. But his poison had a long half-life. His words, "dead weight, still on your knees," had become a dark internal echo. Around 11:00 a.m., Maria's voice crackled over the radio. "All teams, we have a pop-up charter on the south ramp. A developer is flying in a client. They want the red carpet treatment, which means we need to be visible when they land. Jasmine Robert, you're with me." The red carpet treatment was a dog and pony show Jasmine loathed. It meant standing at attention near the aircraft, smiling and looking professional as the clients deplaned, just to reinforce the idea of premium service. Jasmine, Robert, and Maria stood in the driving drizzle, the whine of a landing Citation jet piercing the air. The plane taxied toward them and shut down its engines. The small air stair door opened. The first person out was a man in an expensive-looking overcoat, Mr. Henderson, a developer Maria had briefed them on. The second person was Gregory. Jasmine's blood ran cold. It turned to ice in her veins. He was wearing the same tight suit, his hair plastered to his head with an obscene amount of gel. He was smiling, schmoozing, pointing animatedly at the terminal. "And this, Mr. Henderson, is where the real money lands," Gregory said, his voice carrying on the wind. "The people who buy my properties don't fly commercial. This is the lifestyle, my friend. Pure, unadulterated access, Mr. Henderson nodded, looking impatient to get out of the rain. Then Gregory saw her. He stopped. His schmoozing smile faltered, then reformed into something ugly and cruel. He couldn't believe his luck. Here she was again, a prop for his performance. He steered his client directly toward the Celestial Clean team. Maria, sensing trouble, stepped forward slightly, her customer service smile plastered on. "Good morning, gentlemen. Welcome to Teterboro. Celestial Clean is here for any in-flight needs." "I'll bet you are," Gregory said, his eyes locked on Jasmine. He ignored Maria completely. "Gregory," Jasmine said, her voice a low warning. "This is a secure area. You need to proceed to your vehicle." "Oh, I will. But you have got to see this," Gregory said to Mr. Henderson, grabbing his arm. "This is what I was telling you about. It's hilarious. Hey, Jasmine." He was loud. Several ground crew workers fueling a nearby plane turned to look. "Jasmine, this is Mr. Henderson. He's a very important developer." "Mr. Henderson, this is my ex-wife." Mr. Henderson looked from Gregory to Jasmine, his expression clouding with discomfort. "Gregory, this isn't the time." No, it's perfect." Gregory insisted, a manic energy in his eyes. He was playing to an imaginary crowd. She's the one who makes sure the toilet's flush for the rich and famous. Right, honey, wiping up after people like me and Mr. Henderson." Maria stepped in, her voice firm. "Sir, that is entirely inappropriate." "Inappropriate? It's the truth." Gregory laughed, droplets of rain catching on his eyelashes. "She had all these big dreams. Engineering, wasn't it? Something with planes. Looks like you're real close to them now, Jazz. Still scrubbing floors while I'm selling penthouses. Some people just find their level, you know. And you, my dear, seem to have found yours." Jasmine was frozen. It was one thing to be insulted in the relative anonymity of a Starbucks. It was another to be degraded on the tarmac in her place of work in front of her boss and colleagues by the man who had promised to love her. The rain mixed with the hot, stinging tears that welled in her eyes, and she hated herself for them. She felt small. She felt exactly like the dead weight he'd called her. "Gregory," she finally whispered, her voice shaking with a mixture of rage and humiliation. "Please, just go." "Aw, am I embarrassing you?" he crooned, stepping closer. "Don't be embarrassed. It's an honest living. A lowly living, but honest." "That's enough," Robert suddenly boomed. The older man stepped in front of Jasmine, his face red with anger. "You will not talk to her that way, you pathetic little man." "Get out of my way, old man," Gregory snarled, shoving Robert's shoulder. "Sir!" Maria shouted, reaching for her radio to call security. It was all happening too fast. Jasmine was trapped in a nightmare of her own, making the roar of the jet engines replaced by the sound of her own blood rushing in her ears. "He's right, Mr. King. That is quite enough." The voice was not Robert's. It was not Maria's. It was deep, calm, and carried the effortless authority of a thunderclap. Everyone froze. Gregory, his hands still raised from shoving Robert, turned. Walking from the main terminal building, flanked by two men in dark, severe suits and holding a simple black tablet, was Eris Beaumont. He was not dressed for the rain. His black turtleneck was already damp, but he seemed entirely unbothered by it. His eyes were not calm. They were chips of steel. Gregory flustered and, not recognizing the man, immediately went on the defensive. "Hey, pal, who are you?" "This is a private conversation. I'm here with a client." "Your client, Mr. Henderson," Eris said, his gaze flicking to the developer. "And I have a mutual acquaintance, Don Lake at the Austin Property Group." Mr. Henderson's face went white. He knew exactly who Don Lake was, and he knew that anyone who knew Don Lake on a first-name basis was not a pal. "And you," Eris continued, his attention landing on Gregory with the weight of an anvil, "are trespassing on a secured flight line and harassing a contracted employee. So I will ask you again, who are you?" The shift in power was immediate and absolute. Gregory's bluster evaporated, replaced by a panicked stammer. I'm Gregory King, King's Realty. I'm meeting Mr. Henderson. Your meeting is canceled, Eris said flatly. You can't do that, Gregory sputtered. I can, Eris said. This terminal, I'm on the board. This tarmac, my jets are serviced here. And Celestial Clean, they are my personal contractors. He took a step closer, his security team fanning out slightly. And you, Mr. King, have just assaulted one of their employees. Gregory looked at Robert, then back at Eris. I pushed him. He got in my face. After you verbally abused Miss Duval, Eris stated. It wasn't a question. Gregory was sweating the rain, and his own panic making him look pathetic. Look, she's my ex-wife. It's complicated. I was just joking. Joking? Eris repeated, his voice dangerously quiet. You find her profession a joke. Well, yeah, kind of. Look at her. Gregory said, his desperation making him reckless. She's a cleaner. I'm a successful realtor. I was just pointing out the difference. Jasmine, who had been watching this exchange as if from a great distance, finally found her voice. Mr. Beaumont, you don't have to. Eris held up a hand, silencing her gently without even looking at her. His eyes remained locked on Gregory. The difference, Eris said, is that Miss Duval's profession requires integrity, honesty, attention to detail, qualities you seem to be lacking. You don't know me, Gregory spat. I know enough, Eris replied. I know that you mock a woman who is working an honest job to put herself through one of the most difficult engineering programs in the country. And I know that you do it loudly, in public, because you are a small man, Mr. King, and small men must shout to feel tall. Gregory's mouth opened and closed. He had no response. He looked at Mr. Henderson for help, but the developer was actively avoiding his gaze, his face a mask of horror as he realized just who Gregory had picked a fight with. Eris Beaumont, the man who owned the future of aerospace, the man Mr. Henderson's entire industry would one day be begging for battery contracts. Now, Eris said, his voice crisp and final, terminal security is on their way to escort you out. I would advise you to leave before they arrive. I'm sure your client can find his own way. Mr. Henderson nodded frantically. Yes, absolutely. Mr. Beaumont, my apologies for this. I had no idea. You are known by the company you keep, Mr. Henderson, Eris said coolly. As Henderson scurried away, Gregory was left alone, standing in the rain, facing the billionaire who had just dismantled him with a few quiet words. He looked at Jasmine, his eyes filled with a new, terrified hatred. But Jasmine wasn't looking at him. She was looking at Eris Beaumont. Her mind spinning, unable to comprehend what was happening. How did he know the rain had softened to a mist, but the tension on the tarmac was thick enough to cut? The whine of the Citation's APU had died, leaving a strange wet silence broken only by the distant rumble of a taxiing Gulf Stream. Gregory stood frozen, his face a mask of disbelief and dawning panic. The two terminal security officers were now walking briskly toward them, their expressions impassive. He was trapped. Seeing his escape route closing, Gregory tried one last pathetic gambit, his voice shifting from a snarl to a wheedling whine. Look, this is all a misunderstanding. A domestic dispute. It's private. You have no right to interfere. This was a public humiliation, Eris corrected him, his voice level and cold, slicing through Gregory's defense. You made it public when you assaulted an employee and created a disturbance on an active flight line. This is now a security matter. The security guards arrived, flanking Gregory. He looked wildly between them, his confidence completely shattered. Then Eris did something that shifted the entire gravity of the moment. He broke eye contact with Gregory, dismissing him as a concluded threat, and turned his full attention to Jasmine. His entire demeanor softened. The hard metallic anger in his eyes was replaced by a look of profound and professional respect. It was as if he was intentionally creating a bubble of calm just for her right in the middle of the storm. "Miss Duval, Jasmine," he said, his voice now quiet for her alone. "I apologize for that interruption. It was not my intention to make a scene." Jasmine, who had been watching this exchange as if from a great distance, finally found her voice. She was trembling, her mind a frantic blur. This man, this legend, had just defended her. "But why? How? Mr. Beaumont," she said, her voice shaking. How did you know? About my program about me?" "I told you," he said with the smallest hint of a smile. "I'm an engineer. I'm always interested in other engineers." He turned back and his voice rose again, crisp and clear, a public address. He was not just speaking to Gregory. He was speaking to Maria, to Robert, to the security guards, to the very tarmac itself. He was rewriting the narrative Gregory had tried to create. "You see, Mr. King," he announced, and Gregory flinched at the sound of his name. "What you so arrogantly mistook for a cleaner is one of the brightest young minds I've come across this year. This floor scrubber, as you so charmingly put it, is the same woman who found my wallet last week, on my aircraft." Gregory's head snapped up. Maria and Robert's eyes went wide. "A wallet?" Eris continued, his voice hammering home each point, containing over $10,000 in cash. "My personal keys and several secure access cards to my company's R&D laboratories, enough to compromise my entire quarter's research." Jasmine blushed, remembering the moment, the simple right or wrong decision. She returned it intact, and when my head of security offered her a $5,000 reward, she refused it. Gregory stared, his small calculating mind unable to process the concept. "Refused? That," Aris said, his voice dropping dangerously as he locked eyes with Gregory, "is called integrity. A concept you might want to look up in one of those real estate pamphlets you hand out. You see, you measure a person by the car they drive or the suit they wear. I measure them by their character, and yours, sir, has been found." He paused, searching for the word bankrupt. Jasmine felt Robert's hand on her shoulder, a silent, trembling show of support. "I was intrigued." Eris continued, his gaze sweeping the small crowd. "Deeply. So I looked her up. I found her academic portfolio. I found her midterm thesis, a study on hybrid combustion chambers for increased turbine efficiency. I read all 40 pages. Last night." This was a shock. Even Jasmine was stunned. He'd read her thesis, the one she'd bled over. "It's brilliant, flawed in its assumptions on page 28, but brilliant. The foundational math is revolutionary. It's a problem my own R&D team has been working on for a year, and this cleaner is solving it between shifts." The humiliation Jasmine had felt was gone, burned away by a white-hot electric pride. He wasn't just defending her, he was validating her. "So," Eris said, taking a final step away from Gregory and closer to Jasmine, "while you are busy selling condos, Miss Duval is designing the very machines that will fly over them. You were right about one thing, Mr. King." He looked Gregory up and down with a final pitying glance. "People do find their level. Yours just seems to be here, on the pavement, harassing people who are vastly superior to you." It was a total clinical execution. The security guards, taking this as their cue, each took one of Gregory's arms. "Sir, you need to come with us." "Get your hands off me!" Gregory shrieked, his composure finally completely breaking. He was no longer a slick realtor. He was a cornered animal. "You can't do this. I'll sue you. I'll sue all of you. I'll have your jobs. I'll sue her. Good luck with that," Ari said, not even raising his voice. He calmly checked his watch, a gesture of such profound dismissal it was more insulting than any shout. "My legal team is on retainer, and they are very, very bored. Now, if you'll excuse us, we're late." Gregory was dragged away, still shouting threats that the wind snatched and tore apart. "Late," Jasmine asked, her head spinning. The adrenaline was fading, leaving only a bone-deep confusion. She was still an employee. She was on the clock. Late for what? I have to finish my shift. Maria, I am so sorry for all this. I'll get right back to... Maria already knows, Eris said, turning to her. He nodded to Maria, who was looking at him with something approaching reverence. I spoke with her this morning. She has graciously agreed to release you from your contract. Jasmine's heart stopped. Release me? For a terrible sinking second she thought she was being fired, that the scene Gregory caused had made her a liability. Release me? I don't understand. What? Jasmine? Ares said, his voice kind but firm, the voice of a CEO closing a deal. Aura Dynamics has a standing rule. We find talent and we acquire it. I'm not letting a mind like yours polish chrome, not even for my own company. You've been poached, effective immediately. Her mind simply couldn't catch up. Poached? My R&D director, Dr. Lena Harding, is waiting for us in Manhattan. We have a 2:00 p.m. meeting to discuss your thesis and your new position. My new position. Lead Junior Engineer, R&D, Skunkworks Division. If you want it. He said Skunkworks, the holy grail for any aerospace engineer, the place where the impossible was built. The salary, he named a number that was so high Jasmine's knees buckled and she genuinely thought she might faint, is of course negotiable. We'll also be funding the completion of your master's degree and your doctorate should you choose to pursue it. Jasmine Duval stood on the rain-slicked tarmac at Teterboro Airport, her celestial clean polo sticking to her back. The man who had destroyed her life was a fading, angry noise, and the man who was changing the world was offering her everything she had ever dreamed of. Tears no longer of humiliation, no longer of anger, but of a profound shattering and terrifying relief streamed down her face. She looked from Eris's expectant face to Maria's tearful, beaming one. She was speechless. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Eris said, his small smile returning. Say yes, and we can get out of this rain. As if summoned by Eris Beaumont's words, a car glided onto the tarmac. It didn't drive, it floated. It moved with a preternatural silence, parting the mist like a ship's bow. It was a breathtaking machine, a deep midnight blue Bentley Mulsanne, its massive handcrafted chrome grille gleaming with a quiet superiority, even in the dull, overcast light. The car was a statement of physics-defying luxury, an artifact from a different reality dropped onto the functional, oil-stained concrete of the working tarmac. Its engine was a low, powerful hum that was felt in the soles of the feet more than heard with the ears. It stopped silently beside them, the sheer bulk of it displacing the very air. A chauffeur in a crisp black suit and cap stepped out, seeming utterly unaffected by the drizzle. He moved with an economy of motion that spoke of years of perfect service, walking to the rear passenger door and opening it with a seamless, practiced sweep of his arm. Eris gestured to the open door, an invitation into another world. The interior was a blaze of warm, cream-colored leather, so pale and perfect it looked like it had never been touched by human hands. Polished dark wood the color of rich espresso looped around the cabin. It wasn't a car interior, it was a private study. Please, Jasmine. After you. Jasmine was speechless. The sound of Gregory's fading, pathetic protest was still ringing in her ears, a sharp contrast to the silent, dignified offer in front of her. She looked down at herself. At her uniform, the navy blue work pants damp and creased from kneeling. Her water-stained polo bearing the small embroidered comet of celestial clean. Her sensible non-slip shoes worn and practical. Then she looked back at the plush, immaculate interior of the car. The cream-colored carpet alone probably cost more than her rent. This was a vehicle that cost more than the house she and Gregory had once shared, the one he had fought so hard to keep, the one he was now probably struggling to afford. The chasm between her world and this one felt a mile wide. To step inside felt like a transgression. I can't, she whispered, her voice cracking. She took an involuntary step back. Mr. Beaumont, I'm a mess. I'm all wet from the rain. I'll ruin the seats. For the first time, Heiress Beaumont actually laughed. It was not a polite chuckle. It was a short, genuine, appreciative laugh that surprised her. It instantly cut through the tension. Miss Duval, he said, his eyes crinkling at the corners. This car has survived a sudden sandstorm in Dubai and a protesting mob with paint cans in Paris. I assure you it can handle a little New Jersey rainwater. He leaned in slightly, his voice dropping, but it was not conspiratorial. It was sincere. Besides, he added, his gaze meeting hers, you are the cleanest person here, in every way that matters. His words hit her with the force of a physical blow. In every way that matters. It was the perfect unspoken rebuke to Gregory's shallow obsession with image. It was the validation she hadn't even known she was starving for. She tore her eyes from his and looked over at her colleagues, her found family on the tarmac. Maria, her tough-as-nails boss, had tears streaming openly down her face, making no move to wipe them away. She gave Jasmine a sharp, proud, jerky nod. Go, she mouthed, her expression fierce. Go! Beside her, Robert just beamed. His face, usually etched with a gentle, weary kindness, was split by a grin of pure, unadulterated triumph. He didn't say a word. He simply raised his hand stiffly and gave her a slow, respectful military salute. A salute of a veteran acknowledging a fellow warrior who had just won her battle. Jasmine took a deep, shuddering breath. This was it. This was the moment. She turned back to her team. She unzipped her celestial clean jacket, the one Gregory had mocked, the one she had worn in the pre-dawn cold for 8 long months, the one that represented her struggle, her humiliation, and her quiet, stubborn perseverance. She didn't just take it off, she shed it. She was shedding her old life. She folded it neatly into a perfect, respectful square. This job, this uniform had saved her after all. It had been her armor. She walked over to Robert and handed it to him. Thank you, Rob, she said, her voice thick. For everything. For standing up for me. Gave 'em hell, Jazz, he whispered, his voice rough as he took the jacket. Gave 'em hell. We'll be watching for you. On the news. She smiled a real smile and turned. She walked past Maria, who squeezed her arm, a silent, I'm proud of you. She walked past the spot where Gregory had stood, the spot where he had tried to break her. There was nothing there but a patch of damp concrete. She walked past the invisible line separating her old life from the new, her sensible shoes making quiet sounds on the tarmac. The chauffeur stood like a statue, holding the door, his face a mask of perfect neutrality. She didn't look back. Jasmine slid into the Bentley. The leather was softer than anything she had ever touched, and it was warm. The seat seemed to contour to her body instantly. The door closed behind her with a soft, heavy, definitive thud, and the world vanished. The sound of the tarmac, the whine of a distant jet, the hiss of the rain, the rumble of a fuel truck was gone, sealed out. The silence was absolute, a luxurious cocoon that insulated her from everything. The air smelled faintly of rich leather and polished wood, not stale coffee and jet fuel. Heiress got in the other side. The chauffeur closed his door with the same finality. He moved to the driver's seat, and the car began to pull away, gliding silently without a single vibration toward the exit gate. As they made the turn, Jasmine caught a final glimpse of her ex-husband. He was standing between the 2 security guards, his expensive suit jacket askew, his hands cuffed behind his back. He was shouting something, his face a contorted mask of rage, but she couldn't hear a word. He was just a man, small and insignificant, a silent movie of his own pathetic making. He grew smaller and smaller in the polished, rain-beaded window until he was just a blurry figure lost in the mist. He was no longer her problem. He was no longer anything. Inside the car, Heiress didn't speak for a full minute. He simply let her breathe, let her acclimate to the sudden jarring peace. He was giving her a moment to process the shift, to let her heartbeat return to normal. Then he leaned forward and tapped a small refrigerated compartment between their seats. A silent drawer slid open, revealing frosted bottles of water. "Here," he said, his voice calm and normal, as if they were colleagues meeting for coffee. He handed one to her. "I apologize for the theatrics back there. I have a distinct intolerance for bullies. I find they are inefficient, a waste of energy." Jasmine took the water, her hand still shaking the cold bottle, a grounding real object in this dreamlike moment. You read my paper," she said. It was the only thing her brain could fully grasp. My college paper." "I did," he said. He tapped the black tablet in his lap. The screen lit up and she gasped. It was her thesis, her 40-page proposal displayed on the high-resolution screen. And it was covered in digital red ink notes, comments and complex equations in the margins. It wasn't just read. It was analyzed. "As I said, it's brilliant." Eris continued tapping a section. "Your foundational assumptions about plasma-assisted combustion are bold, revolutionary even. You're wrong on page 28 about the ion saturation point. You overlooked the thermal variance, but your core concept for the chamber geometry is something my R&D team has been trying to crack for 6 months." Jasmine stared at the notes. The shock, the tears, the adrenaline from the confrontation, it all evaporated, burned away by a sudden intense flare of intellectual fire. The engineer inside her, the woman Gregory had tried to extinguish, woke up and took charge. I wasn't wrong," she said, her voice suddenly clear and strong, all trace of a tremor gone. She leaned forward, pointing at the screen. "I wasn't wrong. I didn't account for a non-adiabatic compressor. My math assumes a perfect system. But if you adjust the algorithm to account for the heat loss, if you recalibrate the fuel-air mixture, the saturation point stabilizes." Eris Beaumont went very still. He looked at her, and a slow, predatory smile spread across his face. It was not a smile of charm or kindness. It was the smile of an engineer who has just found a worthy adversary. The smile of a master who has just discovered a prodigy. "Then show me," he said. He handed her the tablet. Jasmine Duval, ex-wife, ex-cleaner, and future engineer, took the tablet. It felt heavy and solid in her hands. It felt like a weapon. It felt like a tool. It felt like her future. "Dr. Lena Harding, my R&D director, is going to be very interested in this," Eris said, leaning back against the leather. "Now, let's talk about combustion chambers." And as the Bentley Mulsanne, a silent blue shadow, merged into the traffic leaving Teterboro, Jasmine Duval leaned forward, her eyes bright, and began to design her future. That day, Jasmine Duval didn't just leave an airport. She left her old life in the rearview mirror. What Gregory meant as a final cruel humiliation became her ultimate liberation. It wasn't the Bentley or the billionaire that saved her. It was her own integrity, her relentless grit, and the quiet dignity of her work. She was never dead weight. She was a rocket just waiting for the right fuel. Her story is a powerful reminder that your current job is never your final destination, and the people who judge you from the sidelines have no idea how high you're about to fly. Thank you for listening to this incredible story of karma and triumph. If you were inspired by Jasmine's journey, please show your support. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear that their hard work matters, and subscribe to our channel for more real-life stories that will restore your faith in justice. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. What did you think of Gregory's downfall? Let us know in the comments below.